time for Baby and Toddler Instructions with host Blythe Lipman. Blythe is a nationally renowned infant and toddler expert who has over 30 years' experience helping moms and dads regain their sanity, teaching them how to survive, and giving them the confidence they need to be the best parents ever. From sleeping to crying to potty training to choosing a preschool and so much more. If you're a parent, Baby and Toddler Instructions is the show you've been looking for. Now here's your host, Blythe Lipman.
Well, good morning, afternoon, evening, whatever time zone you might be in. Thanks so much for tuning in. I am very excited about today's guest. Her name is Grace Tiscareno-Sato, and she'll be with us in just a bit to talk about juggling the demands of your little ones. And she even has a child with disabilities. So, you know, we all have times in our life when it's tough to juggle everything. And boy, she knows the tricks. So I can't wait to hear. It's going to be a great show. But first, wow, the weather. We had so much rain yesterday. I live in Arizona, if you're new to my show, and you probably saw on the news all the flooding. You know, we love the sunshine, but Arizona is so dry and we really need rain, but it can get so frightening and flooded when we have these downpours. There were so many water rescues. We have lots of washes here, so the water doesn't drain, and I mean, I don't know. If I saw water that was almost up to my car door, I don't think I would try driving through it. So it was on the news all day yesterday, people getting rescued out of their cars because the current was so strong and they couldn't get out and it was deep. Anyway, the sun's out. It's beautiful. I am jumping up and down because it's 75 degrees here this morning and it's usually in the hundreds. Yay! Oh, wouldn't it be nice if fall came sooner? Anyway, I know other places in the world and in the United States have had lots of bad weather, so I want to wish everybody lots of sunshine and enjoy the rest of your summer. August is just flying by, and before we know it, it will be the fall and your leaves will start turning. So that is my little weather report today about here. There were some recalls, and the first one is from Bexo Company recalls Franklin and Ben Mason 4-in-1 convertible cribs. It says the crib front can separate from the side panels and create a hazardous gap that can allow a child to fall out or become entrapped between the front and side. So that's Bexo, Franklin, and Ben Mason 4-in-1 convertible cribs. Also, Brita, which we all know with the water, recalled children's water bottles because the lid can break into pieces with sharp points, posing a laceration hazard. And last but not least, this week, the ESL Interlogic hardwired smoke alarms were recalled. Now, I know that's not baby equipment, but you know what? Everyone should have a smoke alarm in their house, and you ought to change the batteries. You know, I always tried to remember on my birthday to change the batteries. That way I don't have to put it on my calendar with all my other to-dos. So it says that on these smoke detectors, the radio frequency interference can cause them to fail to alert. Well, that's terrible. Anyway, if you go to my websites, babyinstructions.com or mybestparentingadvice.com, I have a recall page, and you will see all the up-to-date recalls because it's so important to keep our children safe. And they're always doing recalls, which is a good thing. And as I say every week, don't try to finagle it and fix it yourself. There's usually an 800 number and a website and an email contact that I do have on my pages on Baby Instructions and mybestparentingadvice.com. So you can always call them and take it away, take it back to the store. Just don't use it. So those were the recalls. And since many of the schools will be starting, and a lot of ours have already started here, many of you may have a toddler that's going to be starting preschool for the very first time. Yikes. I don't know who's more scared, mommy, daddy, or the toddler, doesn't know what to expect. So today, I wanted to share a few tips from both of my books, Help My Baby Came Without Instructions and Help My Toddler Came Without Instructions, to help you get your little one ready before the first day of school. There's lots of things you can do, and I want to share a few here. So the chapter in my books are called Starting Preschool for the Very First Time. So you've already done the preschool check and you've picked something out. And if you're in that process, I also have a checklist in my toddler book that you go to and go down the checklist as far as the preschools when you're looking at it. Everything from how does it smell? How does it look? Are the teachers happy? Can you drop in anytime? Anyway, the checklist is really important. And I just add this before I give you the tips. If you do look at a preschool and something just doesn't feel right, but you can't put your finger on it, look for another one. Our intuition is very strong and usually right. So go with your gut. That's all I can say. It's usually right. Anyway, here are a couple tips for getting your little one ready. Make sure that you visit your toddler's classroom with him or her and meet the teachers a few times before the first day of school. That way you can look around, the teachers can get to know your little one and then they'll be a little more comfortable that first day of school. Also, make sure your toddler knows how to wash and dry her hands as well as how to use the right amount of soap. Practice it. Toddlers love to put their hands in water. They love to play in water. We all know that. But practice it because in preschool, hand washing happens many, many times throughout the day. And you want her to know what to do. And probably the first couple times you show her, if you have the liquid soap, it's going to be all over. But you know what? Another thing they need to learn. Also, if there's going to be certain supplies that you're going to need to purchase before school starts, let your toddler help pick them out. Maybe a lunchbox, or they're going to take a backpack or whatever. It will make them feel like such a big boy or girl. So those are the few tips I wanted to share. But if you go to my website, I have a page called Blythe's Favorite Tips, and I added some more tips to make that transition easier. Or you can also purchase my books from my websites, mybestparentingadvice.com, babyinstructions.com, Amazon, Barnes & Noble. And you know what? If you don't have time to read, both of my books are on audible.com, which is pretty cool because you can listen on any of your iDevices when you're doing something else. We all multitask. So check out my tips, and if you ever have a question, you can contact me. Or if you have a question during the show, you can call us here at 877-864-4869, or you can go to the chat line and you can type in your question if you don't want to talk. But I love callers, so call us, 877-864-4869. And also, with school starting, I love to share current things. Many children as young as 4 or 5 do some type of extracurricular activity, sports, dance. Some of them are in plays. And there was a great article in the New York Times this Sunday by Bruce Feiler called "There's No Off in This Season." And it talked about older children, and it talked about, it started when my daughters were young. They had a book called we all love called Jump into January. Every month was illustrated with a search and find painting filled with seasonal items. August was sail into August. The sand is soft, the sea is warm. And they showed shovels and crabs and all that kind of stuff. But Bruce says, have a teenager these days? You'd be lucky to see a sandcastle in August. Instead, you're probably spending most of your month schlepping to tryouts, hauling to 2-day practices, scheduling around mandatory workouts, and letting yet another extracurricular activity encroach on your sacred family time. And there were a couple people in here. One actually had planned a terrific family trip with the entire large family, got the tickets, booked everything, and the granddaughter missed the trip because there was mandatory soccer tryouts at her Manhattan school. And if she didn't show up, she wouldn't be eligible to be on the team. And there's all kinds of examples in this article about this happening. And, Bruce, in this article, Bruce Feiler says, he quotes Dr. White, that the problem was rooted in social anxiety of contemporary parents. Parents are so insecure, they feel like whatever other parents are doing, they have to do. If it's soccer, then their kids have to play soccer. Anyway, the reason I wanted to share this article with you is I know, children that are young, where babies and toddlers don't have mandatory practices, or maybe they do, but it's so important to start young. It's so important to make family time a priority. And we are going to talk about that today with Grace, because it's tough to do that one-to-one with each child. You know, parents work, you have all kinds of responsibilities. You know, you have to grocery shop, whatever you're doing, it's tough to juggle. But it's so important to keep family time a priority. And I think after reading this article, I mean, it really made me angry reading it. It said sports can be part of your life, but sports is a wonderful thing for kids, but it has to be kept in its place. And whatever you have to do, and forget the sports because our kids are little, grocery shopping, whatever it is, you know, make sure that you make your children the priority. The grocery shopping can wait. You know what? I think it's terrible anybody ever has to miss a family anything because of something in sports. So let's start from the beginning. I used to plan a day or an afternoon a week. I have 2 children, as you know, and one day was for Lindsay and one was for Andrew, and we did that one-to-one. We could have, you know, maybe made cookies together. Maybe I took them to the playground, but I always made sure I gave each child one-to-one time with me. And I was just as busy. I always worked, but it's so important. And I can tell you now, because my children are in their 30s, they still remember. They'll say, remember when we did this? And nothing better. So anyway, that was that article. If you have the New York Times, take a look in the Sunday section. It's the section, the New York Times, This Life by Bruce Feiler. Take a look because the article is pretty interesting. So we're going to have a break in just a minute, but I want to tell you about my guest. And when we come back, we will talk to Graciela Tiscareno-Sato. I don't know if I'm saying her name right, but she's an Air Force veteran, mother of 3, multilingual nature athletes, including her oldest daughter who sees with her hands. She's taken hand-on parenting to a whole new level with her kids, creative cooks, pastry chefs, and crafters in elementary school. Her firstborn child was 100 days early, weighing just over a pound, and she lost her eyesight and her hearing. What else? Graciela and her hubby chronicled their parenting journey to teach parents and educators. They have DVDs. I have a terrific book here called Goodnight, Captain Mama, because Graciela has done so many things. She is an award-winning author, and the book, she is a U.S. Air Force officer, aircrew member, and contingency planning. And we will be right back.
We'll be right back with more Help My Baby Came Without Instructions. It's Baby and Toddler Instructions with Blythe Lipman on TogiNet. We'll be right back right after these.
Show me the money!
Okay, we will. We're going to teach you how to tell your money where to go. It's Intelligent Investing with Pam Otten on TogiNet. Learn how to be a savvy investor from someone who has your best interest at heart. Pam Otten is a financial advisor who loves to help successful business owners and entrepreneurs understand the mysteries of the investment world. And she's not afraid to share that knowledge. Pam is an unashamed Christian and qualified kingdom advisor, which means she's trained and committed to integrating biblical principles into her financial advice. Pam believes investing isn't rocket science. This is the financial advisor who's in your corner and truly understands and cares about you and helping you achieve your goals. Securities and advisory services are offered through LPL Financial, member FINRA SIPC. It's Intelligent Investing with Pam Otten on TogiNet.
Have you heard? The pages of American Patchwork and Quilting magazine come to life on our new weekly online radio show, American Patchwork and Quilting. Join Pat Sloan, our blogging and quilt designer host, as she talks about the latest trends, ideas, and inspirations. Her guests include quilt pattern designers, authors, quilt shop owners, and our editors, all quilters, just like you. Call in with your questions. Get quilting tips from industry experts. Learn about free patterns. Hear behind-the-scenes stories from our magazines, American Patchwork and Quilting, Quilt Sampler, and Quilts and More. Get the scoop on free stuff and find out more about the best independent quilt shops in North America. To listen to a live show, tune in Monday at 4 p.m. Eastern. Just log on to allpeoplequilt.com/radio. To hear past shows, go to iTunes and search for American Patchwork and Quilting Radio. We hope you'll join us because we know that quilting changes everything.
Welcome back to Baby and Toddler Instructions with Blythe Lipman on TogiNet. The hour for all moms with little ones to come for great advice, encouragement, and great ideas for all new parents. Now, back to the show with Blythe Lipman.
Well, welcome back. Before the break, I had a lot to say, so I was in the middle of telling you about my wonderful guest, Grace. And she earned an environmental design degree, completed an aerospace studies program, Air Force Reserve officer training. She enjoyed a 9-year stint as an officer and aircraft navigator on board the KC-135R refueling tankers. I am in awe because I'm not thrilled about flying. Anyway, she spent 9 years in global corporate marketing roles before becoming a momtrepreneur. And she wrote this wonderful book, one of a couple, called Goodnight Captain Mama, and it is terrific. So now that I have kind of screwed up your bio here, Grace, good morning. Thanks so much for being on this show. You know, I want you to highlight your bio because you've done so much, and I'm so excited to have you on here this morning.
Well, thank you for having me. I love talking about the mama part of the Captain Mama intro you just did. So, highlights. Oldest daughter of Mexican immigrants, wanted to do something different than what I was seeing around me in Colorado. So my counselor told me about the Air Force ROTC scholarship that her husband had received to go to college, and actually invited me to her house to meet her husband and learn more about it because there really was no money saved up for my education. So long story short, I took his advice. He was an Air Force major, and I applied and got into Berkeley. And once there, I could still pick my major. You know, I did environmental design and architecture, as you said, but I was also enrolled in the aerospace studies program as a cadet. And after that program, I had the chance to go fly. And, you know, a little bit different there. I still finished my major, but I had the opportunity to go fly for the Air Force, which is not something you turn down. So my training was as an undergraduate navigator. So not a pilot, but the person that tells the pilot, you know, how fast to go and where to go and all that to meet up with other airplanes in the sky to do aerial refueling. So that was the military part. And then I finished my master's when I was on active duty between deployments, and got married right as I went into the Air Force after college. And then after I got out, after 9 years of service, that's when we started having our children, and that's when I was in my corporate marketing roles.
Wow. Phew, I have a question. Had you ever been on a plane before?
That's the funny thing, you know, as the oldest of 5 kids born to Mexican immigrants, we didn't have money to jump on airplanes and go across the country. We just, you know, that's not where my parents were at in the 70s and 80s, mostly 70s when we were little kids. So I had never been on a plane. My mom says she took me to Chicago when I was 1, but who remembers that, right? So,
so what did you think?
No memory of airplane rides. And my very first airplane ride, and I love telling this story when I speak, is Phoenix, Arizona, Williams Air Force Base. I was 19 years old, second year of college. It was part of the summer orientation program where they show you different careers. And I got a ride on a T-37 supersonic trainer jet with a female pilot whose name I still remember, Captain Dolly DeLisa. So my very first airplane ride that I have any memory of was in a military trainer with a woman pilot.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
And we got to do all kinds of, you know, aerobatic tricks and barrel rolls and, you know, let me fly. And it was like, wow, I think I like this. And so she's the one that really encouraged me. She says, I know you have a plan, you're studying architecture, and you think you're going to go into civil engineering, but you can always do that when you're, you know, 40 or 50. But flying is something that you can really only do now. And so I took her up on that, and I put my name in the hat, and the board selected me for one of the navigator slots, and I loved it. Yeah. I would do it all over again, just like that.
What a great story. And, you know, I reread your book this morning, which is Goodnight Captain Mama, about, I guess, your son asking you what all your patches were and everything on your uniform. It's the greatest book. I just love it. And, you know, kids are so interested in everything. They want to know, you know, what's this? And I love that you did a book about this.
Well, thank you, and I always fully credit him for putting the idea in my head. I don't know if you had a chance to go to CaptainMama.com, the book's website, but we put a little video right there of he was 3 years old the night this happened. And I was putting the uniform on because I was going to go to his preschool the next day for Veterans Day. And I said to my husband, he's never seen me. The girls were already sleeping. He has 2 older sisters, so they were already sleeping. And I said, grab the camera because I'm really curious to know what he's going to say when he sees this, because he'd never seen it before. So he came in, and my husband just grabbed the whole conversation, and we put just a snippet there. But the book is effectively exactly what happened that night in terms of he came in with his pajamas. He saw my uniform. He started pulling the patches off and having conversation, asking questions. And it gave me the chance to really, through the patches and what they represent, talk about my service in a very simple way for the youngest child. And when he exits the scene, you can see this on the video, he says, "I love you, Captain Mama." I never said Captain Mama. I told him I was a captain earlier in the conversation when he was pointing to the rank on the shoulders, but it was he who, as he walked out the door, said, "I love you, Captain Mama." Oh. And it was one of those creative moments, Blythe, where I just froze, and after he went to sleep and I sang him a lullaby, I literally stayed up until 4 a.m. writing this first draft and researching how many women who have served in the military have written children's books. And how many of us fly? And has anybody ever done this in English and my first language, Spanish? And when I kept finding the answer was no, we haven't seen that. I mean, certainly women veterans have written books, but they're mostly memoirs, not so much for kids. The books for kids that are out there, written about a military mother are typically written by somebody who knew a mom doing something or somebody's sister, but the actual female veteran herself very rarely ever writes a book for kids. And so when I realized all that in my research at 2 a.m, I just said, okay, I'm doing this. I'm going to create this book. I'm going to create a series. And that's really where it came from. It's from a little guy, my little guy, walking out the door saying, "I love you, Captain Mama."
So what a great story. How old is he now?
He is 7.
Wow. Does he get embarrassed or is he thrilled when you talk about him?
He loves to go to events with me, and on the cover you see the airplane in the back and the mommy saluting, and she's hugging her little boy. And people say, "Oh, is that you?" They ask me this, and I say, "It's a character loosely based on me." But my son will say, "That's me."
That's so great. You know what? And we're talking about family time and juggling and everything else. And what is a better memory? Not that we're all going to write a book, but just to be with mom and be able to pull the patches off. And in the book, it says he wore one to sleep. And, It's so important. Family time's so important. And I was talking about this article. I don't know if you were online yet, but I was talking about the article in the sports before you came on the show. And, it's hard when you're a new parent, expectant parent, toddler parent, and you work full time and you have your kids, and how do you balance it all? And people want you to come over or they want you to do things. Balancing is tough when you're a parent, and spending that one-to-one time with your kids is so important.
Right. Yeah, I did hear you discuss the article. I think I heard you reference social anxiety and, kind of following the crowd and, all the stuff that parents experience. But what I want to share, what I hope people take away from the conversation that, that I can contribute is just 3 things. One of them is learn to say no. Mom, Dad, please, learn to say no. When everybody wants you to volunteer for this, that, and the other thing, when you've got young children, no is a very powerful word. No, I'd love to do that, but this is not the right time for me. This is the season of my young baby. This is my toddler's time. No, I can't take half a Saturday to help you set up a tent at the whatever. No is a very powerful word. I have practiced that. Politely no, but no. I'm protecting my time. It's for my kids, and I don't have time to go do that. I have never been a people pleaser. I know a lot of mommies who are. They just want to say yes, 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 and everybody likes them, and that's the most important thing, and then they forget that that's robbing them of their time. So learn to say no. Very powerful way to protect your family's time.
I want to add to that. I want to add to that, too, because what I always say is no is a complete sentence. You don't even have to tell somebody why.
Right.
You can politely say, no, you know what, it doesn't work for me. But it's tough because when you're a new parent, you don't know that it's okay. Because I remember doing all kinds of everything, not to be liked, but because I wanted to do everything with my kids. And I look back and think, why didn't I say no? I was so tired all the time, making cupcakes and showing up. And it's like, what am I doing?
Yeah, well, that's all part of the social anxiety, isn't it? Is that you think that's what you're supposed to do?
Yeah.
Which leads to my second one, which is be a contrarian. I've always lived my life as a contrarian, and it's funny to hear a military woman say that. That's when I really couldn't be a contrarian, but yet I still found ways to be a contrarian, even though there was all that structure. But be a contrarian. Don't do what everybody else is doing. Be the one that does it differently. And I just think life is so much more richer that way. If everybody wants to have a play date at someone's house and everybody brings cupcakes, then you be the playgroup mom that says, you know what? Let's mix this up. Let's go down to the creek. Let's just take a hike to the creek. There's no cupcakes required. Just bring your kid, bring your water. Let's go for a hike. So, be the one that thinks differently, because I think when you do that, you put your child at the center of your decision making, and then you're doing it your way on your timeline. You're not conforming, and you're not, rising to that level of anxiety to meet everybody else's expectations. So be a contrarian is very important as well. And the third thing, accept all offers of help. This is one I learned very early, thank God, because there's always somebody who wants to help you, and we tend to think that we have to somehow, again, going with the whole anxiety thing, that I need to show everybody that I can do this, that I can, be this tough supermom. Well, you're not going to get a prize for that. There's no ribbons for being the exhausted supermother. There's just no ribbons for that. So accept all offers for help. I had friends, can I do anything for you? Open-ended question. Yes, would you mind doing my grocery shopping? I heard you talk about this shopping. Would you mind picking up these 10 things? Save me the trouble.
It's so important.
So that kind of thinking, or the teenage kid down the road that says, call me anytime to help you, please, just have them come over.
Oh.
Just accept all offers of help. That's the third thing.
I love these. They're so great, and they're so important. And I know, thinking back as a new mom, I probably wouldn't have done any of these because I didn't know, even though I took care of little ones for years. But one other thing, don't be afraid to ask for help. I mean,
exactly.
Call somebody. If that teenager says, I want to help, call them. Don't. It's great because people love to help. That's the other thing that we forget. People do love to help. We help each other in this world. And the tunes are coming, so we're going for a break. So we will be right back.
We'll be right back with more help. For help, my baby came without instructions. It's Baby and Toddler Instructions with Blythe Lipman on TogiNet. We'll be right back right after these.
Baby love, my baby love, I need you, oh, I need you.
Do holidays and celebrations get you down and leave you feeling frazzled? Then join Sandy Fowler and her guests on Heart-Filled Holidays every Monday at noon, 11 a.m. Central on TogiNet.com. Sandy will help you discover the secrets to having the celebrations you've always dreamed of while adding fun and meaning to your life. From Valentine's Day to Christmas to special family events, Sandy Fowler will show you how to put the fun and meaning back into those special days by taking a look at what we can do to turn the upcoming holidays into cherished memories and show us how to allow it to intertwine with everyday life. For more on the show, Sandy, and to receive Sandy's Holiday Happiness booklet, go to heartfilledholidays.com. Then get set to discover the secrets to creating happy holidays and happy everydays by joining Sandy Fowler and her guests on Heart-Filled Holidays every Monday at noon Eastern Standard Time on TogiNet.com.
This is God in Country, the collision of faith and politics, hosted by nationally known speaker, Reverend Dr. Sean Michael Greener. Not your typical Rev. Dr. Sean is a proud military veteran, former law enforcement officer, and founder of the internationally regarded Executive Protection Team. Dr. Sean holds a bachelor's degree in biblical counseling and master's and doctorate degrees in theology, and is currently pursuing a doctorate in ministry with a Hebrew worldview focus. Through his counseling, elite life coaching, and national speaking, this ninja pastor tells it like it is. This series is biblically and politically engaged with the pedal to the metal. Join host and author of the acclaimed yet controversial book, Excellence Killed the Church, How Mediocrity is Destroying America, Dr. Sean Michael Greener. Every Monday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on this radio network.
Welcome back to Baby and Toddler Instructions with Blythe Lipman on TogiNet, the hour for all moms with little ones to come for great advice, encouragement, and great ideas for all new parents. Now, back to the show with Blythe Lipman.
Well, welcome back. I am so excited about my guest, Graciela Tiscareno-Sato. I think I said it right. I love your name, and I love you. You're such a great guest. She's the author of Goodnight, Captain Mama, and Grace has done so many things. She was in the Air Force. Anyway, we're talking about juggling the demands of parenting, and she has a daughter that was 100 days early and weighed 1 pound, and she's now 12 years old. And Grace, talk a little bit about, juggling that and learning to deal with, with disabilities and how to parent, because it's a little different. I guess it's a lot different.
Well, when you bring your 1 pound baby that made it all the way to 6 pounds in 137 days in a NICU hospitalization, when you bring her home on oxygen, still attached to an oxygen tank, and still suffering from reflux, which is really the inability to keep down food. So you've got all these medical things going on. You bring your child home after really 137 days. She was in the NICU. A couple things are going on. First of all, you are completely competent parent because you've had 137 days of training of how to take care of your fragile child, and you've had all these medical experts helping you. So you have a higher confidence level in terms of that you can take care of this child versus if you're in the hospital, in and out in 2 or 3 days, right? So that was strangely, the silver lining all this is I never had any doubt that I was ready to take care of this child because really it had to be that way.
Was she your first?
Go ahead. Yeah, she was our
first child. Okay.
First one. So right out of the gate, 18 months after leaving the cockpit, my life is very different. And we did know before she came home that her retinas had detached due to retinopathy prematurity. So we already knew that was happening. So while we're just trying to transition into parenting, we also now need to transition into advocacy skills, which we picked up in the hospital, to what does it mean to raise a blind baby and where are those resources and reaching out and there's the medical bills and the insurance and all that. So all that was going on, and so we had to deal with incredible amounts of stress. But the way we dealt with it was seeking knowledge. And I want to just tell you, there was a moment where we flew out to Detroit in the middle of the winter in a Learjet that I had to fight for with the insurance company. And it was for some eye surgeries to try to save some of her retinas from detaching. And I want to just share something I saw in the NICU lounge. It's a little poem by Ruth Hamilton. Maybe you're familiar with this one. It's Babies Don't Keep.
No.
And I want to share this with all the parents because this is really my mantra to everything of parenting that we're talking about. And here's what I saw stuck on the wall in a little frame. It's this beautiful poem from 1958 by Ruth Hamilton, and I'll just read the last part. It's basically about a mom who's ignoring the housework to be with her baby. And the ending is this: the cleaning and scrubbing can wait till tomorrow, for children grow up, as I've learned to my sorrow. So quiet down cobwebs, desk go to sleep. I'm rocking my baby, and babies don't keep. And I get emotional just reading that because I remember my child is hooked up to an incubator, in an incubator, hooked up to God knows how many machines down the hall. She just had surgery in her eyes. And I'm reading this. And I remember being profoundly affected by that because what that's telling me is lower your housekeeping standards, moms. Be with the babies. Read another book. Hold them 15 more minutes. Everything else can wait. Again, offers of help, right? But that was core to having a child with a disability because she just demanded more time with the medication and the albuterol treatments and the breast pump and the milk and all the stuff that was going on when she came home. And I hope I've answered your question. That was really fundamental to, wrapping our arms around, what is this going to take and slowing down. And I always say organize, prioritize, and then execute. That comes from my military days. But to handle, multiple children, especially one with a disability, it's what do we do? And I do want to offer one resource that's core to anybody who already has a baby that's, a premature baby. I think 1 out of 11 babies now are born prematurely in this country.
Wow,
big number.
That's a lot.
And the book that helped me fundamentally to deal with this as she started school, at the age of 2, before she started school, is From Emotions to Advocacy. It's, your show is baby and toddler instructions, right? Like it didn't come with instructions.
Right.
Well, kids with disabilities certainly don't, but Pete Wright, who's a renowned attorney who, by the way, is also dyslexic himself, he and his wife have done incredible work, and this book is the companion to the special ed law book that tells you about your rights and everything, but this book is core, From Emotions to Advocacy. So for anybody that already has a child with a known disability, or as preschool starts and you're transitioning and suddenly you notice maybe there's some dyslexia happening in kindergarten, it's really important for parents to know the rights and what school districts are supposed to do, and that's how I have kept our stress level manageable, because my husband and I got the knowledge. And so when everything is overwhelming you, you've got to stop, organize, prioritize, and execute. And knowledge is the basis of all of it, because if you don't know, that just adds to your stress level.
Oh, absolutely. How do you spell their last name?
The Wrights, so Pete, and then Wright as in the Wrights brothers, so W-R-I-G-H-T, Pete Wright. Okay. And the book is From Emotions to Advocacy. Okay, the companion book is Special Education Law. So you don't sit down and read a law book of a federal statute, but you do read From Emotions to Advocacy and then cross-reference that. But that really is the instruction manual for managing your child's education, really. And if you have a toddler and you already know that there's a disability involved, you've got to know this stuff before they start preschool, which is what we did, which is why I wanted to mention that today.
Such great information. And if you don't have a child with disabilities, it's still the same thing. Knowledge is everything. When you go into a preschool, you want to go in with open eyes. And, I was talking about this before, that I put checklists in my books. But again, you want to know ahead of time, and you don't want to just go look at a preschool because your friend's going there. You want to know about the teachers, the director, how long has it been there? How is there a huge turnaround with teachers, in the 1s or 2s room or whatever. Right. Knowledge is everything with everything.
Well, yeah, the parallel is exactly the same. Whether your child has a disability or not, you want to find the right placement. That's one of the words in the IEPs and all the legal speak that we do when we advocate for our kids with disabilities. But you're doing the same thing. Is this the right placement? Is this the right peer group? If I want my child to be exposed to, maybe my native language or to learn a second language, is that available in this room? Whatever your concerns are. My concerns were different as the mother of a blind child, but I was looking for a lot of the same things too. Will she be able to socialize? Will there be people here that understand her not so clear speech because she doesn't hear so great? Are there people here who can, are we willing to learn? Are they willing to learn from what I can show them? So, and who are the other kids that are here, and everything you said. It's really, like, process-wise the same. It's just there's other considerations that we had as well. Sure,
and it sounds like you did a wonderful job, because we were talking during the break about, I know your children love to cook and bake, and I said, Grace, does she bake? What does she do? And you said she reads the recipes in Braille. And talk about that, because I think it's great.
Well, it's really amazing now at the age of 12, how much of a role she takes in our family life to recommend food and shopping, because, one of the things I'm very, very proud of as a mom is, and my husband, because we've done this together, is we have a literate, joyful reader and writer, and she's in middle school now. And one of her favorite things to do at California School for the Blind, they have an entire library of Braille books. So we were there 2 weeks ago, and she found a book called Stir It Up, and it's something like Techniques and Recipes for Young Blind Cooks. But it's just the latest book in her life that she finds with recipes. So she checked the book out, and she found corn dog muffins, which are crazy easy to make.
Oh, yum.
And she just read, okay, ingredients. We need to buy this, and then we saw what's in the house, bought the one thing we didn't have, and then we get home and she reads the instructions in Braille, and then we do the baking together. And this started because we were always in the kitchen making something, even when she was tiny. And just because she didn't see didn't mean she didn't get to be in the kitchen, right? So it all starts with that fun in the kitchen baking experience that we give our little ones. And now, as a literate 12-year-old, now she takes the lead and says, let's make sweet potato casserole. Okay.
Oh, wow.
So
A
much
girl
fun.
after my own heart. I love to read cookbooks, and I watch the cooking channel all the time. There's nothing better to me. I get it. I'm applauding her. Terrific.
Yeah, it's really
So-
great. And I love how her literacy now, is really benefiting our entire family experience.
Wow, it'll be, who knows? You know what? We may be hearing about her in years to come.
We may be.
So let's talk about making that one-to-one time with all the children. We have about 2 minutes before the break, so we can touch on this and talk a little more after the break. But you know what? Sometimes it's tough, but you have to put it in the schedule, don't you?
Well, you do. And, I was definitely working full-time after I brought my child home, and I had a couple weeks, to transition. But it was always the full-time schedule, so I could relate to that. What can I tell you about that? One-to-one time, I had a rule. In the morning, didn't care, if I was already on a call with a team in Germany or whatever. I had this rule that there's always going to be a morning cuddle for each of my kids, even if it's a 2 or 3 minute morning cuddle. The first thing I want them to know when they wake up in the morning is that we're here and we're cuddling them and we're giving them some love. So even if it was literally 2 minutes or even if it was during a conference call, I would just always do that. And that's really nice one-to-one time. Easy. You're already there, right? No scheduling required. It's just you have to put it in your mind that that's your priority. So I always did that in the mornings.
Do they still let you do that?
What was that?
Do they still let you do the morning cuddle?
Well, now we're too busy running to school to get to school on time. But so not so much, but some mornings, yes. My little one still does. But certainly when they were tiny, and toddlers and even younger, we did that. And, for a one-to-one time, any other time of the day, even in the evening, it can be as easy. And I don't mean you have to go to a park and get in the car and go somewhere and go shopping. No, we would literally just say, okay, I'm going to go to the next room and read, or we're going to go sing our own song in the next room. So even if it's just separating 20 feet away, just to give them that attention, that's really easy to do. It's just, again, you have to put in your mind that I'm going to have this one-on-one time. I'm just going to go over here.
You know
and
what?
I didn't have that. I was one of 5 kids. So I think that's why it's been a priority in my life.
So if you're home with your little one, go give them a little cuddle while we're having a commercial break. We'll be right back.
We'll be right back with more Help My Baby Came Without Instructions. It's Baby and Toddler Instructions with Blythe Lipman on TogiNet. We'll be right back right after these.
Finally, a show that supports women who are in the midst of a transition in midlife. The show is Second Wind. Here's what certified coach, author, and host of Second Wind, Joyce Buford, wants you to know.
It's so empowering for women to hear about other women and their accomplishments.
We all need cheerleaders, someone who's on our side.
Second Wind is that program to help women connect with other women, hear other women's stories,
In a stressful world,
find power in those stories.
learn to discover your passions and joys again. Create the life you want to live to the fullest. Join us for Second Wind with Joyce Buford, Tuesdays at 9 a.m. Central, right here on the TogiNet Radio Network.
Fear in my enemy's eyes. Listen as the crowd would sing.
I am not the woman I used to be. I'm free with Minister Diane Jones. Monday nights at 10, 9 Central on TogiNet. This is your chance, ladies, to hear stories of hope and healing from someone who's been there. Someone who has fought back from the horrors of incest. Minister Diane's innocence was stolen from her in the land of alcoholism and mental illness, which led to her being emotionally, physically, and sexually abused by her parents. Yet in spite of this trauma, she has gone on to become a successful wife, mother, registered nurse, and minister of the gospel of Jesus Christ. I'm not the woman I used to be. I'm Free is a straight-up show to enlighten you and to lighten your load. Do not let the weight of this world or the things that have happened to you control your life. For more on the show and Diane and her book, The Story of Me, email her directly from her show page here on TogiNet. Then, join us for I'm Not the Woman I Used to Be, I'm Free, with Minister Diane Jones, Monday nights at 10, 9 Central on TogiNet.com. Welcome back to Baby and Toddler Instructions with Blythe Lipman on TogiNet. The hour for all moms with little ones to come for great advice, encouragement, and great ideas for all new parents. Now, back to the show with Blythe Lipman.
Doing it all for my baby.
Well, welcome back. I can't believe we're up to the last quarter of the show. I am talking to Graciela Tiscareno-Sato. I love to say her name. It's so pretty. Before the break, we were talking about one-to-one time with our children, and she had the greatest idea, a morning cuddle. And it's so easy. And boy, it's something your kids will remember. You know, I know when they get older, they're going to go, oh, Mom, they don't do that. But you know what? Secretly, they really do like it. So anyway, this is my 216th show. I'm very excited that you could be my guest today. So let's talk a little bit about some of the activities you did do with your children, and you do.
Well, in the very beginning, we had some great advice from Blind Babies Foundation in San Francisco. You know, how does a blind baby develop? And some of the advice and activities that we did then with our first, of course, were family favorites for the others. And one of them was we used, and you could do this with your baby, you know, when they start sitting up, 6 months old and forward, is there's all these things in the house to touch that are interesting textures, and there's different temperatures associated with the materials, and they're interesting, to put your fingers in, and, most of them are safe to put in your mouth. So what we did is we were just encouraged to bring things that she probably wouldn't encounter if she was, just sitting in one room. But if she was more mobile, what would she find? And so we did things like towels and a wooden spoon and, just all kinds of common things for babies to just explore, because that's all stimulating their mind. And so things like that, it's so easy. You just find stuff, gather it, and put it there, even before they can crawl around. And so we did it with the blind baby, and it worked later on. Another thing was we were encouraged to make sure that we let her get messy. Too many parents don't want kids to be messy. So we made edible Play-Doh, garlic being her favorite. This is one of my favorite ones. We put a large butcher paper out in the driveway, and we had a toddler playgroup come over, and we painted their feet with brushes, which is very tickly. And then we just let them walk across the paper and held their hands so they wouldn't fall. But toddlers plus painted feet walking on butcher paper equals homemade wrapping paper. So
what a
we did
great
these crazy
idea.
things that were all multi-sensory, right? And, of course, other kids love doing it, too. And lastly, we had a Friday night family music-making session. We would attend music together classes since the kids were 1, but we have 2 boxes of instruments at home, and my husband and I play trombone. So we would just pull out the maracas and the tambourines and the drums and this and that, and everybody would just make music, and it was our Friday night tradition. Again, you don't have to go anywhere. Just have the instruments in your house, and you just have fun. Put on some music, play with it, or just make your own music. But these are the things that we loved doing together, get messy, get musical, and easy to do all at home.
And if you don't have instruments and you don't want to buy them, there's always spoons and Tupperwares and boxes and, it's
kitchen
not.
instruments.
I want to be in your house. Will you be my mother?
Sure.
think it's what
it's
a fun
here.
mother. Also, did you ever play the tasting game with your children?
Oh, yeah. Like identify the taste?
The taste, because, I used to do this with my children. I would blindfold them and I would give them something to taste. And I would go from, not anything dangerous, but something sour like lemon and something sweet like a cookie. And we always had so much fun doing the tasting game.
It reminds me of the baby shower game that I've played before, where somebody buys like 8 types of jarred baby food and blindfolds the guest, and then the guests have to identify what the flavors of baby food are.
That's a fun game. It's so much fun.
It is fun. It is fun.
And it doesn't, if you just look around your house, you're right. There are so many things that, we take for granted as adults because we've already been through a lot of experiences. But as kids, everything's new, especially a toddler. I mean, toddlers, it's so funny. They crack me up because they get themselves into trouble, not because they're bad, but because they're doing what comes naturally. They explore. They want to touch. They want to feel. They want to put things in their mouth. And it's not always safe.
Right,
But
and we don't want to have to run around after them and always say, don't touch, because that's the opposite of go ahead and explore. Another thing we did, Blythe, is a lower cabinet in the kitchen, just lower down where they're going to reach anyway. Yes, we locked up the door under the sink with the chemicals and the cleaning stuff. But over here on the other side, we had a door that was not locked. And that was a door where we kept the wooden spoons and the metal bowl and the spoons that they could smack together and the lids of pans and just stuff that you can make noise with, and the kitchen instruments that we're talking about. That was a place that they could just open it up and take out whatever and explore stuff in there. And there was always something new. We always changed it up. So that's the place where the child can be entertained pulling out whatever's over there while you're doing whatever you need to do in the kitchen over here. So that's something easy enough to do. Just kind of configure one space in your kitchen as the place the toddler is supposed to explore.
right, or
And
you know what? It doesn't have
give
to
it to
even
'em.
be in your kitchen. It could be a special box or whatever works for your family. Also, how did you juggle the demands of a business? You own a business and your kids have school schedules. How do you do it all? I know we all do it differently.
Yeah. Well, in the beginning, we had an au pair living in our home because, like I mentioned earlier, when you bring a child home on oxygen with a tank and on medication, your choices, daycare centers are rapidly eliminated. You don't really have those choices. So we had an in-home au pair, which I never even knew about that, but it turns out that it's actually much less expensive to host an au pair in your home than it is to pay the daycare costs that a lot of people incur. So if people haven't heard of that program, I encourage people to look at it. We use Culture Care Au Pair, but there's a lot of agencies, and that was key because that's a person in your home, an exchange student that's trained and vetted out to help with infants and babies and different qualifications and languages and all that. And that was the person that really helped me with the day-to-day. And we didn't have to do the run out the door with the baby and drop them off somewhere thing. So that was coping mechanism for us. It's also marriage insurance. Call it marriage
Absolutely.
insurance.
Gotta
Because
have
you've
that
got
date
someone
night.
else that's helping, and you don't have to blame each other for all the stuff you didn't get done. And so that was definitely important in the beginning. Now that I own a business and run a business and travel and all that, now it's all about getting up really early, like 4:30 or 5 in the morning. I start my day, and I get some work done and started and organized before we start the school routine. And very importantly, my husband and I just have schedules where we can work at home when we need to, and thankfully he works for Verizon. He can actually take one or two of the kids to the office with him, and there's plenty of space for them to hang out there in the Verizon building downtown San Francisco. So having that flexibility, with your spouse to be able to take a child to work, that's helpful. That's what we were able to do, thank goodness. But I made sure when I was working in a corporate setting that I had the flexibility to work at home a couple of days a week. That was one of the criteria that I set forth for myself. I did not want to be locked into someone else's way of doing things. Again, that contrarian mindset, the one that doesn't say I have to do it their way. It says I can negotiate it to work in my life. I encourage more moms to think that way and to not be afraid of, what's going to happen if I ask for that? It's like, well, you might get it. And I worked at home a lot, and I traveled a lot internationally, but that flexibility is key. So now with business, it's even more important because there's so much more to do. But it really starts with that focus and the ability to compartmentalize. So between 4:30 and 6:30, I am totally in publisher and businesswoman mindset, and I go in a mom mindset for a couple of hours. After school, I actually hang up a sign in my home office that says, "Do not disturb. I'm in publisher mode. I'm not your mommy right now." So compartmentalization, and I've trained my kids to respect my time. And then when I come out and I go into fully mommy mode, I don't let anything pull me back into work. So it's really compartmentalization. It's not multitasking. I'm not mothering and multitasking. I'm really dividing that time out, even if it's in small chunks. But I tell my kids which mode I'm in so that they know what to expect or not expect.
You know what? That's really important too, because you're teaching them about the time element, the respect, and when they need time, or if they have to do their homework at a certain time, it's important. And I have to say, I love that you put a sign on because I do the same thing. I mean, I don't have little children anymore, but myself, I love what I do, so I have a hard time stopping sometimes. And I know I try very hard on Sunday to close my office door and put "on vacation" or "closed" on a sign. So to remind me not to go in there and that everything will still be there on Monday.
I actually cover up my laptop. I have a cover. Just put on there.
Well, whatever works,
cover
you know
it up.
what?
Visually not there. Yeah.
It's so important to take time for your children. And Grace, we're at the end of the show, and I am so happy you could be on the show. Could you tell my guests where they can find your book, where they can find you? I know you do speaking engagements.
Yes. Easiest way to reach me is at CaptainMama.com. That's the book website. There's a contact button. Speaking topics are there. But that's really the easiest way. You can buy the book there, and I'll dedicate it and personalize it for your baby, your toddler, your daycare center, your preschool. You know, Veterans Day is coming up, and I think it's important that small children see images of mothers loving their little ones, but also flying airplanes. And,
absolutely, especially in this day and age.
But that's the best way to contact me. And just grace@captainmama.com is the email, so that's another way to do it.
Well, I will put that on my website. Thank you so much for being my guest. You were wonderful. I'd love to have you come back and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you so much for having me, and certainly I'd love to come back. There's so much more we could talk about.
Absolutely. Take care, Grace. Thank you.
Thank you, Blythe.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Wow, what a great show. There's still hope for me to juggle my days, even though my children are grown up. You know, I love all my guests and feel so grateful to meet so many interesting people and learn from their expertise. I learn every week. I have a wonderful lineup for the fall. If you would like to be a guest on Baby and Toddler Instructions, please contact me via my websites, babyinstructions.com or mybestparentingadvice.com, or you can always call my office, 480-510-1453. If you need a little help with your baby and toddler issues, I can provide you with a little coaching, including some easy-to-use fixes that I know will help. And don't forget to listen to all the other great shows on TogiNet. We have everything. It is just terrific. So if you have a topic also you want me to cover, check out my website, contact me via there, and I'm sending big thank you hugs to the 62,665 people that have listened to my show this month so far. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Pass it on to your friends. I just love it. So I'd like to leave you today with these words of wisdom. Motherhood. When changing from your plaid flannel PJ pants into black yoga pants qualifies as getting dressed. And last, you know you're a mom if you find yourself hiding behind a cupboard door, stuffing your face with chocolate so your kids can't see you. Then offer them organic rice cakes. Seriously, even with all our new challenges when we're parents, there's nothing better than being a mother or a father. Nothing better. So thanks so much for tuning in today. Have a great rest of your week, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.